It's Linda MacPhee's workshop. Here's Linda.
Here I go, playing the piano and getting ready to get this sewing show on the road. And it is a sewing show with a difference, because we try to make things that are kind of unusual, things that you might not think of making, people that you might not have met. It's just a bunch of good stuff. And to join me, to help me today, is Cousin Nancy. It's great.
A bunch of good stuff.
And who gets better than Cousin Nancy and family? So
well.
Good to have you here.
Well, thanks for coming.
You normally write books. I mean, that's what you do. And but you do sew some, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And I went through all the home ec things. Remember home ec?
Yes, of course.
And all that kind of thing. So sure.
Yeah.
And when my kids were little, I sewed for them.
And when the need calls, you...
Yes, I do.
And
Christmas calls, I do.
Christmas,
yes,
definitely,
right.
yes. So when I show you stuff, you think, you know, and I know you had a skirt workshop the other day. You were talking about having your daughter and...
Well, everyone happens to be wearing skirts now, and they're those old A-lines that we made back in home ec.
Exactly.
I thought, what the heck, we can do this.
Yeah, this is not rocket science.
No.
We know this.
So we did.
Okay, so what I did with this, and you're wearing one, so you're kind of...
That's right.
And I'm wearing one.
In there.
But this is the first, I've been making these this is called my free motion jacket. And you can see that it's a base with a whole bunch of stuff stitched all over it. And people have been just nuts about this jacket. It is kind of a good jacket. But when I do it out in a class, often people ask me to come and do a one-day class. This is not a one-day class. Because you do the front. That's not so bad, but then you do the back, and then that's a little heavier, but then you do the sleeves. So these are all pieces of fabric sewn on.
Every one of these lines has been applied personally by you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I understand why this isn't instant.
It's not that bad, but it's just not that quick.
Yes, all right.
So I thought, doggone, is there a way I could make that quick? Because I always, we have to do quick.
Yeah, right.
So I said, well, let's do this. And if you look at this is now using solid piece of fabric.
Yes.
Instead of a whole bunch of little ones.
Yeah.
And this is just stitching around the existing design.
But you've still stitched these yourself?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And that's called free motion. You can do that. But the other joy of this is that I said, well, let's not do the back. There's nothing much wrong with the plain back.
Right.
And nothing much wrong with plain sleeves and plain collar.
Lovely fabric.
So all of a sudden it becomes more doable because you just have to do the front.
Right.
So shall we look at some more? See?
So this is your...
I'm calling it liberation.
Liberation.
Because once you've seen that, this is liberation.
So. That's right. Well, I think liberation is a good thing.
Exactly.
Jackets or otherwise.
Let's
so
have
there
a
we
look.
are.
Here we go.
Oh, you got some more?
Yes, because you see, this is kind of a good look. And I'll get Jessie over here, and we have just the front. And you don't have to stitch or do anything. You just find some neat fabric.
Well, this is fur, isn't it?
Fun fur.
Fake fur?
Yeah.
It's lovely.
So there it is.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
and
lined,
cool.
And then sweatery back. So again, just kind of a back that's plain sweater knit.
This is even more liberated than some of those over there.
This is very liberated, yes. Okay, thank you, Jessie.
There are degrees of liberation.
And I know it's black, so it is tougher for the camera to pick up all the colors. But if you look at this, we've got a little bit of fun fur, we've got some leather, we've got some slinky, we've got some different textures of fabric.
So, and it's just you manipulate them and glue them?
Yes.
Glue them. Wow, this is good.
And then stitch them, of course. But if you look on this, there's also a pocket worked into that. So I just put the decoration in that part, and then I could work in a little patch pocket. It's
very tidy. Very nice. Yes.
Okay.
You look great.
So keep coming then, because this one you can see better, the color. And this is kind of a neat idea. I love to recycle. So here we are recycling. This is an old sweater. You may have had this game. You know, if sweaters, sometimes in your closet they shrink. Have you had this thing?
Yes, it's funny, isn't it? They do, yes.
It's the dark, I think, in the closet or something. So they shrink. So you cut it up and you put it on.
What do you mean you cut it up?
Cut the sweater.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
I know that's a foreign concept to most people, but no, you can cut it and sew it. It's a piece of fabric, really.
Okay.
So that's what we did on this, is just cut the sweater, put it on top.
And then sew all through it so
kind
it
of
stays
sew it
down.
to anchor it a little bit.
Yeah,
that's all.
All right. Okay.
So there's the front of another jacket.
Very nice. This one has no pockets.
No pockets, but
mine has pockets.
Yeah,
yes, right.
Pockets or no pockets, you decide.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, of course, there's lots of fun furs out there, so here we go. This one, you have to just expect to be petted, because people will pet you.
Do you mind?
Question.
I pet you.
There you go. And here's the sweater back again.
Oh.
So, yeah.
They're very
once I started doing
neat.
this, I could not stop, as you can see.
No. And right behind us is Linda's Liberation License.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I guess this is all part of it, right?
But let's look at this one.
All right.
Because you might recognize the pocket of this.
Well, I didn't until you pointed it out. It's It's a man's
suit pocket.
Suit pocket.
Yeah. I mean, this is a quality suit. There's another pocket within the pocket.
We don't have to make.
Yeah, why would you ever make a pocket if you can find one?
No, that's true.
So find one. And there's other men's suits and pants.
Where's the tie? You found the tie. There's tie. Here's tie over here.
There's ties and stuff.
And it's very smart.
Well, I think
I'm impressed.
There's this business, and you've seen these ads on TV where the husband's gone and the woman throws all the clothes out and
out of the second floor window and says, "Goodbye, dear."
No.
Don't throw them out.
No, keep them, cut them up. The satisfaction is even better if you'd cut them up.
Yes, but you must have a barn to keep all this stuff in.
Well, yes, you do have to have some
barns.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So let's get making it, because the making it is really quite simple. The first thing you do is whatever you want to do. You could stitch that, or you could just find an interesting fabric, so you find something for the front.
All right.
I did put a pocket in, because you did mention pockets.
I like pockets.
I prefer to do the patch pocket, but if you want to do a side pocket, this is what you're going to do. This is your front. We'll pretend that this is your
This
side.
material is my front.
This is what you're going to do.
Is this part. Okay, all right.
So you're going to put your pocket on where the pocket belongs. This is pretty standard
This is pocket stuff, yeah.
You sew along there. You flip that out.
Right.
And top stitch that, and you clip here so that this can come right under.
Yeah.
And now I've got a finished edge, just like that.
Okay.
Then once I've got that finished edge, I can do here is that I can then turn that and put my lining, and I can stitch that pocket bag to the lining. I know it sounds, you really just have to work through it.
I think
Trust
I do.
me, Nancy.
Yes, okay.
Because now, you see, when I go in there, I've got the pocket, and I've got that bag that is now stitched.
All right.
So that is kind of quick and simple little pocket.
All right.
And that's in the pattern.
I was going to say, that's in the directions.
Yes.
I'm good at directions.
Good. So here we go then. We're talking about the jacket. So we're going to make the collar. And I've done this with fleece. The ones that we've got on are cotton knit, which is depending on, some kind of a sweatery, soft. This is more of a sweater than a jacket.
So it should be, should have some give to it.
Some kind of give to it.
Okay, all right.
So fleece is what we've used here.
Yeah.
So here's your front. We've put the collar on the front edge. So the front to the back, obviously, then the collar. And then the lining, and we've only lined just the front, because really you don't need to line the whole back.
Okay,
so here's the front and the collar hooked to that.
Yeah.
We're going to put the zipper.
Oh dear, zipper.
Well, I know, but you line the zipper up, and if this feels like it's going to stretch, you'll put some interfacing along the back of that zipper, because then that will hold it.
This is iron on?
Iron on,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
There's so many easy things. Life is easy. Yeah, life is good.
It's better than it used to be in home ec class.
It is.
Okay.
So what you're going to do then is sew around that, or across the collar, down here. This has been basted to this, so we'll just put those two together, come all the way down here and across the bottom.
And so you just sew right next to the,
Actually,
right next to the...
your presser foot will run right along the edge.
Okay,
It'll keep you, and you'll feel it right there. You can sew right along there, or you could sew from this side and sew right on that same line again.
On that line. Okay.
So then, by the magic of television, this side is done. So here
I wish I had the magic of television in my house. Never mind.
I'll come and visit.
Sure. Okay.
You cook for me, I sew. How's that?
Okay, that'll be good.
So we flip this whole thing in and get it all out, and you can see what happens is that we've got, here is your front.
Okay.
So there's your zipper in there, there's your bottom finished. Now this becomes a side seam, and you sew this into your side seam, you put your sleeve in, and I mean that's basically the front.
Ta-da!
And we could stitch that across, if we wanted to anchor it, whatever. So here's your side, put right sides together.
This probably wouldn't cost a lot either, would it?
No.
How much did this cost?
Nothing.
Nothing. Because you have all this stuff.
Yeah,
anyway.
this is stuff.
Right.
And if there's lots of secondhand stores, you can go and find stuff if you don't not. Well, husband's old suits.
If
even
you
don't
don't throw
kick
them
the
out,
husband.
you can go.
Even if you don't kick him out, you can just use his old suit. So you don't really. So it really doesn't cost a whole lot.
It's great. It is a liberation jacket.
Good girl. That was what you were supposed to say. You didn't.
I didn't know that, but there you are.
It is. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome.
And don't you go away, because we've got great stuff coming up. See you then. I love bringing all the interesting people that I meet when I'm running around the country, and I do travel around a lot teaching and doing things like that. But at Billings, Montana, when I was at a show there, the booth next to me was so exciting. I mean, we were having lots of fun. And the woman that I met there was Cynthia St. Charles. So it's nice to have you on the show.
Thanks, and you can call me Cindy.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Tell me, how long have you been doing these wonderful pieces?
I've been doing art quilts for about a year. I worked as a school psychologist.
1 year. That's
I
pretty
worked
good.
as a school psychologist for 10, and it was beginning to wear on me.
I would think that's kind of a burnout
It was
direction.
a burnout thing.
And this would be totally therapeutic, I would think.
This is what I did for therapy.
I'm just amazed because such a short time. I mean, you've had this smoldering for a long time.
Right.
Because you're now even in magazines. I mean, you've been published. You've been making up for lost time.
I just
Yes.
focused on this.
I would love to show your pile here. So let us just walk through them each, because the fascinating part about this is you've used all kinds of words on this, so you have to get a close-up.
Yeah, this began as just plain white fabric. I dyed all of the pieces of fabric, all the colors, and pieced them together, and then all the words that are quilted on here are words that I used in my
your former
work.
life.
Yes, in my former life.
Yes,
Everything.
medications, problems,
Yes,
all
kinds
kinds
of
of things.
diagnosis. And
Yes. Okay, that is a fantastic piece. So this just brings you back. If you ever think you want to go back into the system again,
Right, I
you can
can
look
just
at
look at
this
that.
and say, okay, no, been there, done that. Okay, let's take that one away.
This one is somewhat therapeutic also. This quilt is called Mammograms from A to Double D.
Lovely, lovely.
The fabric for this began as plain black fabric that I manipulated, put bleach on to get the images, and then the words that are quilted on here are names of breast cancer survivors.
Wonderful. What a wonderful thing. This is just, and I think it's so exciting when you said you only use white fabric or black fabric.
That's
There's
all
only
I
two
use.
colors in your
Right.
life, and I kind of like that.
Well, that's what I start with.
Yes,
and then,
yes,
then I make
you-
the colors.
Yes. But you start with those two fabrics, and all the words and the names on here. That is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So let me then take this one out of here, and then we will carry on.
This one also began as just plain black fabric that I manipulated, put bleach on, and then I used free motion stitching to make-
outline and to,
the flowers,
give your-
right?
yeah.
And the beads that are sewn on here.
Okay, so really you've done a lot with experimenting and playing and just
Very much what I'm into right now.
Yes, and I mean, I would think you look like you change the rules or make up your own rules or.
Well, I'm learning as I go,
Yes,
for sure.
Yes. Okay, and the beads on that are fantastic. Okay.
Here's another one that's pretty heavily beaded.
Speaking of beads, yes.
This fabric was plain white when I began, and I painted on it. I laid it over a grid, and the paint kind of pooled where the lines of the grid were, and I drew a swirl, and then free motion quilted to get that design.
Okay,
and
so
then
how
the
do you,
beads are
what inspires you? How do you start? Is it you just sort of say, well, let me make a piece of fabric and then let me see what happens? And
pretty much. I just kind of, I'm very intuitive and just do whatever comes out of me.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So this red is all machine stitching.
It is.
Yeah, so you're very
That's-
good at that. And then all of these beads are hand stitched on.
They are. It took quite a while.
Yeah, so well, this is part of the
But it's-
therapeutic
that
thing.
is therapeutic,
Yeah, very
yes.
therapeutic. But I find it's kind of mindless. It's kind of good. All right, let's take that one.
Another thing I've been doing is dyeing fabric with rust. And I've been
I
using...
like this idea.
Yes.
So you mean when you say rust? You
I mean a rusty old
bolts
whatever.
and
Yeah.
stuff that's up
This
behind
one,
the barn?
you can sort of see a little bit of the remains of the shape of what it was.
Okay.
And this one was dyed with spikes. And so you can kind of see
Sort
the
of see,
lines
okay.
there. This one, I think I put a lot of different things on that one.
Okay, so you then just take these bolts and spikes and stuff and wrap them up and
Yeah.
let them go all over?
Yeah, let the fabric kind of absorb the rust.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is... And this, I bet, is similar.
Yeah, this one is similar. This has got, these lighter ones are rusty, but some of these pieces, all of this began as plain fabric. This was black that I discharged.
Here, okay.
Yeah, there. And then this was hand dyed. But then to embellish it, I sewed on some of the rusty nails.
These are the
that
rusty
I used.
nails that you've used.
Yeah, and I actually had dyed the fabric or the thread that it's sewn down with.
Amazing. So all of us that somehow managed to get a piece of rust on some fabric or something.
You're making art.
Yes, instead of throwing it away or trying to cover it up, I mean, we could be cutting it up and using it. So, yeah, this is just that rusty business. That is. All right, let me take
The
that.
whole back of it's rusty.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, yes. Okay, let me take that one away. You can see my dilemma when I met Cindy. I said, there's just so many kinds and so many different, I mean, which one do I like best? A gulp.
This one I've used tyvec, which is house wrap, and I've...
Okay, this is the vapor barrier that they put on construction.
On the outside of houses. It's also
I've started now looking for it, and when you go into a new subdivision, you'll see all these houses and it says tyvec all over them.
That's
and,
right.
and it's a kind of a, well, actually, I've got a piece here. This is what you said envelopes are actually made out of.
It's an olefin vapor barrier. It's breathable, but it's waterproof. So it's a really good protective thing, but it has this interesting effect that you can stitch it, you can paint it, and when you hit it with an iron, it melts a little bit.
Oh, nice. So I mean, that's not normally nice, but it's nice in this kind of situation.
It creates real interesting effects when used with textiles.
Okay, so you can dye it easily.
Paint it.
Paint it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can't
So
be
you may have some of this sitting around in your home, who knows, and...
just an old envelope.
Yeah, okay, so we can go buy that. We can go and pretend that we're building a house and we can go buy a big bunch of it.
Or buy it at office stores, have envelopes.
Okay. All right, so this part right here is...
I painted it kind of a gold color, and then I stitched down and then ironed. And then it reveals the fabric that's underneath. It's part of the quilt sandwich in this case.
So this is the fabric underneath right here, and then this is sort of but there's more of this. So this is just a beautiful piece. All right, let me take that one away.
And this one actually was also a therapeutic quilt. This is called the last IQ test. The last IQ test I administered was to a really difficult student. And I came home from work, and I painted this crazy face, and I just started painting swirls
in the
around
middle.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I put it on top of a quilt I had already pieced, and then stitched it down and ironed it, and that's how I got the last IQ test.
Yes. Well, I would far rather do these kinds of IQ tests.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the tyvec stuff in here.
And where it's stitched, it tends to adhere quite well. But where there's no stitching, it melts away and reveals what's underneath.
Okay, and you're going to show us how to do some of this. And you've got some projects and some clothing. I mean, this just goes on and on. You know, we have to take a break.
Okay.
So, and then we'll get all set up. So don't go away because we've got some better stuff coming. I get goosebumps just looking at all this wonderful stuff, and I get so excited. So, Cindy, thank you so much for coming. One thing that the cameramen are saying, like, I call this a quilt, and they're not going to sleep on this.
No, it's not for sleeping. But what a quilt is actually 3 layers. Mm-hmm. You know, your bottom fabric, your batting in the middle, and your top layer, and that's what makes it a quilt.
Those layers.
But this is art for the
Art's
wall.
quilt, yes. Mm-hmm. So whether I wear my quilts or you put it on the wall or we put it on the bed, it's the same idea.
It's
so
still
that's the broad term
stitching,
of quilting.
right.
So you said, okay, here is the envelope, sort of this papery kind of permanent stuff. This, people make protective wear out of this.
Right.
It
comes in a protective suit.
Different textures. So
it
this
does.
is a bit lighter.
Yeah, it's really nice. This is really soft.
But either way, you could do this kind of stuff?
That's correct.
Can you show me now what's going to happen, how I'm going to...
Sure.
Okay, let's put this down here.
Here's a bag that I made with tyvec on it. And here's another one.
And the tyvec being this sort of green...
That's the
little
tyvec part.
Okay.
On this side of it, here's the tyvec part.
Yeah. And you can see the background through, so that's sort of...
That's
what you're
right. The
showing.
background comes through.
Okay.
Here's some tyvek that's already been stitched on.
Okay, but this has been, just a minute, this is not this white stuff. This is already...
that's been painted. That one's not stitched on.
And when you say painted, with what?
Well, I paint it with any acrylic paint will work.
Okay.
I use
Knowing you, I suppose whatever paint you got around, give it a whirl.
Pretty much. I try all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And see, it's not painted on the back.
So, okay.
And then when I'm ready to stitch it, I just pin it on wherever I want.
Yeah.
And then I free motion stitch all over it however I want the pattern to look, because where it's stitched, it's going to adhere well, and you're going to have those lines, and where it's not stitched, as it melts, it'll pull away.
Okay, so stitching is good, then.
Stitching is important for this.
Okay, so now we're going to actually...
Yeah, we're going to put it here between, under some parchment paper, and this is just baking parchment. You know, you find it in the grocery store.
Okay,
and
that's what you put on your cookie sheet, so your cookie...
That's the stuff, right. So now I'm just going to iron here, and as I do, it's actually quite hot, and as I do so, I like this little handheld iron because it gives me a lot of control over the amount of
so
melting
this
that's going on.
The nightmare for everybody else. They're worrying that they're going to burn stuff, and this is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's just do a little piece and pull it away. Can I just pull it away?
We're going to let it cool just a tad before we pull it away, and then there it is.
Look at that. So here is the unironed, and here's what it does when it irons. So that was just a beautiful discovery when you discovered that little business. Okay, so that could be on whatever you decide. In fact, I had a jacket. Let me just get my jacket.
It still remains quite pliable.
So here is the jacket that you've used it on, and there it is. So the jacket, I mean, this doesn't touch your body because it's a bit rough, but yeah. Okay, so that is really what you do with tyvek.
Well, that's one of the things to do with tyvek.
Okay, let's take just a piece. What happens if you...
Yeah, if you just take a piece of tyvek, and here's just some that's painted on both sides.
Okay.
And actually, as you heat it...
You use this over and over, I would say.
I use it over and over.
Yeah.
It just...
it just
shrinks. It just shrinks away. Gets it, and you can stop at any time.
Is it going to get into a little ball if I don't stop?
I've not gotten it that far.
Okay. Can we pull this away? And what a beautiful thing! Not everybody would say that, but I think it's a beautiful thing.
It's thin and it can be stitched down. It could be rolled up and made into a bead.
It could be any one of the... they are fascinating. I love them. But I've got to get back and see about this rust, because that's fascinating. Well, before you start, I did have these ones. You talked about a bead, and this is the bead.
Yeah, it was just rolled up while it was still
warm. And then that becomes, chop that off, you've got beads. But I like this. This is something that
someone gave this to me. They'd taken some of my rust-dyed fabric and then sewed pieces of tyvek on around it.
And this is you.
That's supposed to be me.
Okay, so how do you do this rust thing?
Well, you begin with plain white fabric and soak it.
This.
Yeah, there's an example of what I would have used.
Yeah.
And soak it in vinegar. Okay. Just distilled white vinegar in a little container. Then take it out and wring it out. And then lay it out, and then spread your items over it. It would take more than just a few, but you can see here's an example of what I used to make this.
And you go and find these in your husband's work.
Yeah, most of these came from him.
Yeah.
This one was done with spikes. So you'd spread them all out over your wet vinegar soaked.
And you then roll it up. Mm-hmm. You say you wear rubber gloves when you do this.
I do, because otherwise your fingers will turn black from the rusty objects.
Okay.
And here's another one.
So how does this stay? How do you keep it in there?
Well, it doesn't wash out. These pieces have been washed about 4 or 5 times, and you know how it is. It's pretty hard to get rust out. That's right. So it just stays there. It's bonded to the fabric.
Okay, this has been fascinating. You do garments. I mean, you've got your own garment on. We've got wonderful garments. We've got to go. We're out of time. See you next time. Thanks.
To receive the companion book for this series, send $19.98 to the address on your screen or call 1-888-MacPhee.